Okay, welcome back to Remember the Texans. It's your host, Nick Scurfield. Very, very special guest, co-host with us this week. In addition to our producer, Noah Outlaw, who will be sitting down with us in a minute, I think. We have the one and only Houston Texans legend, Earl Mitchell. How you doing, Earl?
Doing good. Doing real good.
Man, a very recognizable voice if you've ever heard Earl speak. He was just telling me that he may have recorded a voiceover of some kind for the Texans over the weekend, but nice baritone, deep voice. Earl was a 10-year NFL veteran, played North Shore High School here in Houston, Texas on some all-time great team, state champions, right?
Yes, sir.
How many?
2003. I think they're on their fifth, sixth one now. I don't even know. I can't keep up.
Yeah. And I think the team you're on is considered one of the greatest of all time, right?
Yeah, very first one, and those guys were some outstanding athletes. I know we actually have that 20th anniversary coming up, and I know those guys, the guys that actually played on that team, are really excited to, for that event coming up.
Yeah, and Earl played his college football at Arizona, third-round pick of the hometown Houston Texans back in 2010, and then when the NFL for parts of the next 10 seasons, the Texans from 2010 to 13, Miami Dolphins from 2014 to 16, San Francisco 49ers 2017 and 18, and then the Seattle Seahawks and 49ers, I believe, in the playoffs in 2019, in the Super Bowl as well. So you played with J.J. Watt, who was just inducted in the Texans Ring of Honor yesterday. You played with DeMeco Ryans, who's now the Texans head coach here in Houston. And you also played for DeMeco Ryans when you were in San Francisco. So you've got all the perspective, man.
Yeah, man. I was actually almost done playing ball when I was, finishing up in Miami. But, when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch called me and they were like, "Hey, we want you to talk to DeMeco," and I was like, "I only know one DeMeco." And just knowing that he was going to be coaching there, that was his first opportunity. Jeff Scanina was there, and basically everybody that was from Houston from my initial years in the league were now in San Fran. I was like, this would be a great way to finish. So, yeah.
And number 92, when you were with the Texans, right? Defensive tackle.
Yep.
Played on some great teams there. I've got my Bulls on Parade throwback shirt on here. And
that's classic.
Man, I feel like we might have to read through these names on the back of here before this thing is done. But that was a defense that you were a big part of, Earl, back in the day. And I know it brings back memories for me when I think about those days.
Oh, man, yeah. Watching, being in the middle between Antonio Smith and JJ and, letting those guys wreak havoc. And, me and Sean, Cody, we're just trying to hold the fort down and just just man the middle. And, we were honored to be a part of that defense. Wade Phillips, he came in, did his thing, man. So it was cool.
Yeah, that was one of the best defenses the Texans have ever had, and defense that really set the league on fire, I think, in those years. And we just had arguably one of the best days at NRG Stadium, in Houston Texans history. I mean, it was definitely a momentous day. J.J. Watt getting inducted into the Ring of Honor. It coincided with Legends Homecoming Weekend, which you were a part of. And I think there were 90-plus alumni from the Texans, including yourself, who were there. And the Texans, by the way, beat the Steelers 30-6. DeMeco Ryans is 39 years old. I thought it was a really cool moment with him and Mike Tomlin after the game embracing a midfield. You think of another young coach, and DeMeco now is on his way. I mean, the way he's been coaching so far. And not to mention, as a Houstonian, and you being a lifelong Houstonian, the Houston Astros won the American League West yesterday. So everything was turning up Houston, man.
It's a great weekend, man. I'm proud of everybody that's been just showing up, like you said, like with it being Legends Weekend. I saw a lot of guys from, my years there. I saw Joel Dreesen and Owen Daniels and, David Anderson. And it was just, everybody. And hearing the crowd, it was very reminiscent of those years because it has been rough. But literally, like, just hearing the crowd, just it kind of gave me chills, just made me feel like it was, 2012 again.
It's interesting because, playing the Steelers yesterday, and I worked for the team from 2007 to 13 and had the pleasure of being there with you for several of those years. I can remember recording some quality on-the-nose content with you and Sean Cody, the fellow nose tackles. But I remember in 2011, I think it was a game against the Steelers that you guys came out, maybe like 17-6, or it was some kind of whatever it was. It was a dominant game. I remember Arian Foster had a big day, and that's where I felt like the Texans really asserted themselves. And then flash forward to yesterday, you know, it's the big Ring of Honor game. It's the most anticipated game of the year for that reason alone. But that stadium was packed. You had a lot of Steelers fans with their terrible towels. Mm-hmm. And the Texans just came out and whooped them, man.
Yeah, man. They showed up, man, and you could see like, you know, the energy reminiscent of those times, and you know, watching, you know, C.J. Stroud, you know, Will Anderson Jr. on defense step up and, you know, and really establish an identity. You know, I really want them to do well as much as you know any fan. I feel like I'm, you know, becoming a fan of the game. It was hard as a player to kind of like transition into that mode, but you know, they're making it easy, you know, to love the game outside of being a player.
Yeah, you know, I was sitting down in the bullpen. I bought some tickets pretty close to the front row because I wanted to be up close to see the whole ceremony. I wasn't on the field like you know, but I wanted to see that ceremony and, you know, kind of be in the middle of all that. And as soon as the game ended, the season ticket holder named Scott, who was sitting next to me, section 116, he said, hey, you know, that was the first game that we've won here since December 2021. And I was like, are you sure about that? And I had to look, and like, I couldn't believe that, man. I mean, obviously that means they didn't win a single game at home all of last season, but those wins for the Texans in general have been few and far between and really hard to come by. And I definitely feel it as, you know, as a fan of the team as well. Just, you can feel the excitement back a little bit, right?
And that's kind of a tribute to your fandom, because like when you ride for a team, you just kind of like, dang, we didn't pull through again, you know. But like it doesn't dawn on you like, dang, we haven't won since 2021. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I heard that too, and I got that same reaction. I was like, I didn't realize it was that bad, but now that I think about it, yeah,
man. And you know, the day, obviously the Legends homecoming weekend, you were telling me a little bit about it. You guys have stuff Friday night, right? You had a sneaker ball. Saturday, you got something going on. So it's a whole weekend. So tell us about these shoes that you got down here. I don't know if we can see these on the camera. But
I don't even know, man. Am I flexible enough to show these? But
Earl's pulling up his sneakers for those of you who are listening. But
yeah, these are cool, man. But shout out to Candace Mayberry. She really stepped up. She always tries to one up herself every single year with the Texans Legends. And shout out to her team with Brett Stewart and Gavin Cupp and the rest of the crew. But she does an amazing job of making sure that the legends who do come back want to continue to come back. And and just for us to just receive great gifts. And she makes us feel special and makes us feel very much part of the Texans team. And shout out to Candace.
So for people that obviously weren't able to be at these things, can you take us through some of the stuff with JJ Watt, which obviously very special for the Texans organization, for Texans fans. He was the third person inducted in the Ring of Honor after Andre Johnson, and then the late Bob McNair, of course, the founding owner of the team. But Saturday night, you had some stuff going on Saturday before the big game on Sunday, right?
Yeah. So right downtown near Discovery Green, we were at the Grove where JJ he was able to come and greet the VIPs, the fans, and that's where I saw a lot of the players from my year, Antonio Smith, and they gave JJ Watt's baby a Ring of Honor jacket. I thought that was pretty cute. But overall, I think that's where we also had our sneakers ball, where we wore suits and sneakers. We all competed against each other, and that was Candace again. We also we did the official Wall of Honor. I believe it's on the second level in the stadium, where they have everything on display for Bob McNair's jacket, Andre Johnson's jerseys, gloves, and same with JJ. And it's just cool to see that that team's so young that by the time I get old, like I will have played the initial and have known Bob McNair, and that's really cool.
Yeah, all three of those guys, so far, of course. And who were some of the other guys? You mentioned Antonio Smith, the Ninja Assassin.
Yes.
One of the greatest sack celebrations I think I've ever seen.
The greatest sack celebration, man. Yeah, it was cool. I haven't seen Antonio. We last time I saw him, he was playing with the Raiders. We were in London, and that was it was just weird to see him in a different uniform. I believe Matt Schaub was there too. But man, it was so good to just reconnect and just catch up and just see what they're up to. Antonio, he has long hair now. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't realize that. No.
But yeah, man.
I saw a picture of him and Sean Cody from down on the field. But, another guy, a friend of ours. But man, it was that was crazy for me because they announced it was like 90 plus. Former Texans players who were there, and you guys are all on the field as JJ comes out. So Sunday, the Ring of Honor induction. You guys are sitting in suites right in the stadium, and then at halftime. So take me through that a little bit of what that experience is like for you.
It's cool. Like that's actually where I got to actually see everybody officially. I saw Sean Cody and I got to see who actually all was who all came through. So that's where I saw Tim Jameson and Antonio and David Hunter and
David Hunter. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of these guys I haven't seen in years, and just it just kind of brought that silly camaraderie, especially when he put Sean on camera and he's like shaking the thank you JJ Watt poster.
And what did you say? He said something pretty funny about you guys.
Oh yeah, he was like, thank you JJ, you made our careers. Without you, we'd have no career.
That sounds like Sean.
Classic Sean.
I mean, you guys were pretty decent players in your own right, I would say.
Yeah, man. No, it was a great playing with JJ, but every time you made a play, it's like that's the benefit of having a guy like JJ Watt around. It's like, hey, yeah, I practice too, man.
Especially as a nose tackle, a defensive tackle. I'm sure you got a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I saw I think you said David Anderson there, Owen Daniel, Joel Dreesen was a guy I hadn't seen in forever. I love seeing him on the big screen.
I couldn't wait I went straight to him and I was like, man, you were always one of my favorite players. And that year I believe 2012, I always felt like he came clutch third down for us, man. So that was just like my opportunity to just tell him how much I appreciate him as a teammate, as a player. He was one of my favorite players.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments, sitting in the crowd of that whole Ring of Honor ceremony. I mean, it was aside from everything with JJ, because JJ obviously singular talent and did so much for Houston with Hurricane Harvey and beyond that. But I loved it when I think it was Mark Vandermeer introduced Andre Johnson sitting there, and man, the stadium went nuts.
Crazy.
Like that was.
You guys are icons, man. These are legends. I was Andre always brings up. You mentioned earlier that I was part of that North Shore State Championship team, and that was 2003. I was a sophomore in high school, and Andre was drafted in 2003, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, he would. When I first came into the locker room, Dre comes up to me and he's like, you played at North Shore, right? He was like, I came to watch y'all state championship game. Wow. He was like, that tells you how old I am. But man, I thought that was crazy because I was a sophomore on that team and he was with the Texans at the time, and I've always respected him. I was a big fan of him and Mario Williams, and just to be able to see those guys, I was jumping up and down on the sideline like I was a fan too, man. Yeah, I've seen it from the beginning.
Yeah, another great deep voice guy, Andre Johnson as well. You guys could record an album or something, man. I think that.
Mark Vandermeer, when I went to Miami, it was this running joke. Every time that I would speak, they would start playing Barry White music faintly in the background, and I was like, Mark done got to the Miami locker room, the Miami media too.
I love it, man. I did not know that about you. That's pretty great. So, talking a little bit about JJ Watt. Obviously yesterday a special day to see him get inducted. Ton of 99 jerseys out in the crowd. The cheerleaders in Toro had the 99 jersey on, but you played next to him. You were drafted in the third round in 2010. He came in the next year. What are some of your memories of him, as a player?
Hard worker, man. Like he was the epitome of hard work. And there's some guys who you see and they just have that natural talent, natural ability, and it's just a matter of just putting them at the right spot. But JJ was somebody who wanted to outwork everybody and show that he was well deserving of that first round pick. And we had this little at the end of the year we would throw a party. And, and depending on the games, if you make mistakes, fines would accumulate, if you miss a tackle, just $10, stuff like that. But we would always run after the ball at practice. No matter where it was, it would be on the sideline, 10 yards, like my shot would throw it out of bounds. We're sprinting to it. We're getting everybody out the way. And the scooping, you had to scoop the ball, that was $5. So like you might be hundreds of dollars in the hole, but those $5 will add up. And me, JJ, Antonio, Tim Jameson, Jared Crick, we're all just sprinting, trying to like scoop that ball for $5.
Oh man!
And yeah, but JJ would win most of the time, and sometimes we would sprint really hard, and Cushion would just pick up the ball like last minute and really ruin it for us. So
yeah,
I remember that.
Sounds like something Cush might do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any specific moments or plays about JJ that stand out to you? When you think back on your time with him.
Man, I think like anybody else, that pick six, that playoff game, that was kind of like I'm here, we're here. And that was a big moment for him, because I know like when he first came in as a rookie, he just kind of had this moment where he would just kind of he got really quiet, didn't really talk to anyone for a while, and then he just locked in, and man, he just really just turned it up for us, man. So yeah, he's always been impressive. But that play against the Bengals when he scored that touchdown.
Yeah, well, and another guy you played with, and something I really wanted to talk with you about, of course, was the current head coach of the Houston Texans, DeMeco Ryans, and he came in 2006, and was defensive rookie of the year, team captain, and he was there through I think part of the 2012 season. And you were there through 2010 to 13. And I want to hear about your perspective on him as a coach for sure. But first as a player, as a teammate, what do you remember about DeMeco from those days?
Very smart and very he was like a cheat code out there. I remember my rookie year where we played the Colts first game of the season, and they weren't a power team. And I just remember DeMeco was yelling power, like he knew it was coming. And I'm a rookie and I'm thinking like, nah. And then they end up running power. And after that, I just completely listened to everything DeMeco was saying out there, because wow. It was like he knew everything that was about to happen. And
was that Peyton Manning on the Colts at that point?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like you had a Peyton Manning on the defense a little bit, right?
Yeah, he lined us up. He would move us if he had to. Sometimes there would be plays where he would align me in places where I didn't line up at practice all weekend, but it was because he saw something, and he always had us in the right spot. So I'm excited for the Texans now, and I knew he was going to do well as a coach. Yeah,
well, and so many people just over the years have referred to him as Cap, right? Mm-hmm. Captain. Can you talk about his leadership?
Yeah, man. I think just his ability to kind of get guys to root for him that's what sets him apart. And he was and it wasn't like a stiff, like he was always like he was fun to be around. One of my favorite. This is off topic, but one of my favorite.
We encourage that here. That's all right. That's all right.
Well, one of my favorite moments was when that Slim Thug song came out. Houston, Texans, home of the Texans, and I guess DeMeco wasn't in the video. And I remember Dwayne Brown and Arian.
I think Cush was in the video.
Cushion was in it, but I remember they was playing it in the locker room, and DeMeco was like, that song it's all right. But it was only because he wasn't in the video and everybody knew it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Were you in the video?
No, of course not. I was too young.
We got to recut another video, man. With you guys in there. Yeah, I mean, especially as a rookie, I would think too, having a guy like that, had to be helpful, right? Even though you're playing different positions, but he's lining up right behind you, right?
Yeah, I was new to playing nose guard. I was very new to playing D line still. That's something that a lot of fans like didn't know or understand. But I played 3 technique my last 2 years of college. I was playing tight end.
Yeah, you were playing like the James Casey role, like you said, right? Like an H back where you even played some wide receiver when you were in college.
Yeah, we were.
I'm trying to picture, Big Earl.
Well, I was much slimmer back then, but yeah, before Rob Gronkowski came to Arizona, I was the tight end there, and I was basic, and then we changed to a spread offense by the time Rob's 3rd year, I believe, and there wasn't much for a motion fullback. We didn't utilize a fullback a lot. Another fun fact is me and Brooks Reed, we were competing for the fullback job. We both came in initially before he got switched over to defense, but we were competing for the fullback job.
Shout out to our guy Brooks, man.
Yeah, man, he's the man.
People used to always confuse him with Clay Matthews. I remember early in his career, but the long blonde hair, the Thor-like hair. But yeah, good friend of ours, and a guy who also had a really nice run with the Texans too.
And he's not a bad guy to be compared to. Yeah, Brooks, and he was much like a raw athlete like myself. But when I had got to the NFL, playing defensive tackle was very new to me still. I had so much to learn from Antonio and Sean Cody and Amobi, from everyone. And it was definitely a learning curve. But yeah, I had some great guys that helped me out.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite memories just as a player, with the team back in those days?
My favorite memories, for me, playing next to Mario. I don't know why, but I do know why. But I used to always bother Mario, and I would come up to him and I would be like, "I'll say that here's the draft," and it was 2006, 2006. Reggie Bush or Vince Young. They go Mario Williams, and my high school was going crazy. Who is this guy? Who was that guy? But I was like, I had your back, man. I had your back. And so that was like my rookie year. I was like always bothering him. And then many years later, when he signed to Miami, as soon as he walked in the locker room, I just pointed at him. I was like, 2006. Gave him the whole story again.
I love it.
But yeah, that was cool. That was kind of like my, wow, I'm playing next to guys that I was just kind of sitting watching on TV, at the draft and rooting for and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and getting to play for your hometown team, right?
Of course.
What was that like for you? Because I can remember on draft day, I mean, there's 7 rounds of the draft every year, right? And it's not very often when you get a guy with a high draft pick who's also born and raised and for you were actually around when the Texans were established as a franchise, at least in 2002, right when the team started. So yeah, what did that mean to you to be able to play for the hometown team?
Yeah, it meant a lot. I wasn't sure where I was going to go draft wise. I didn't have any inclination of any spot that I was going to go because of my my journey in college. I played so many different positions. I did well at D tackle, but it was a matter of how did teams view me? Was I a 3rd round pick? Was I a 7th round pick? And by the time the draft started, I still had no idea, but I had a list of guys that potentially were going to go ahead of me, and I didn't want to throw a draft party and not get drafted. I heard so many horror stories about guys doing that. So by the time I went through the 2nd round, I had a lot of those guys scratched off who I had an idea who would go before me, and that's when I started calling family like, "Hey, I might get drafted soon." And then Rick Smith called me. I got that 713 number, and my family saw the Texans logo on the screen, and the house, the roof just flew off the lid, man. And everybody was so happy. It was cool moment.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to have a lot of your family and friends come to games throughout your time playing?
Yeah, I
Probably got a
know.
lot of ticker requests. I
Oh
would
yeah,
imagine.
rookie year, I was excited. I was like bringing everybody. I was like, please come. And then by my second year, my phone was upside down. I was like, after I saw those like game checks, because people don't realize we got to pay for those tickets,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Especially when the
that added
team's
up.
good, I can imagine. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
it added up over time. So after a while, it's like I tried different tactics. I was like, all right, I had people scheduled for certain games, but then that didn't work, and then I was like, all right, I had my four, my mom, my sister, and two extra, whoever they wanted to bring.
yeah. And you're still in Houston now, right? So
Yeah, still here in Houston, born and raised here. It made sense to come back when I was done playing.
yeah, I a couple more things I want to ask you about, including one of my favorite nicknames of anybody that I know, but we'll get into that in a second. Getting back to D'Amico Ryans a little bit though, I think it's just so unique the fact you not only played with him, but then you played on a defense where he was a coach. He was hired in 2017 as a defensive quality control coach with the 49ers. You mentioned a lot of former Texans people on staff there, including Kyle Shanahan, of course. He was promoted to inside linebackers coach in 2018 and defensive coordinator in 2021. But what do you remember about him? What were your first impressions of him? When you saw him as a coach, you knew him as a player, as a man, and all that. But what do you remember about him as a coach back then?
Just the same energy. The same effort that he brought on the field as a player was the same energy and effort that he brings as a coach. That he was the guy that I see on the field is the guy that I saw always in the locker room. Guys to kind of he was always on 24/7, making sure that he was a guy that people can approach him easily, have a good conversation with. He'll tell you what you can do better, and he was like that as a player. Because we called him Cap, and he was somebody that everybody respects and appreciates. So I saw it with San Francisco with those young guys, Fred Warner, and Dre Greenlaw and his crew there, and now he's doing the same exact thing. And the only advice I gave to the rookies when I've met with them is just please listen to what he says, because it could really benefit your career.
You met with the Texans rookies? What was that like?
Yeah, it was cool. They had us meet at Puttery, and that was different because I don't remember like getting the chance to hang out with the vets or retired Texans then. Now, but like now we have enough years where we have like established veterans to come in, retired established veterans to come and talk to these rookies, and that's cool. That's cool because I know that I'm sure they're eager about the game in all facets. Like, what's life like, for you now? And I didn't have that. I'm sure guys that came from other teams probably did, but that was the only knock that I feel like we didn't have a really good, strong relationship with, former players.
Yeah. Guys like you getting really involved, I think is really cool to see. What are your impressions of the team, of the young talent, and of the pieces that they're putting in place right now?
Honestly, kind of reminiscent of my first year in San Francisco, when John Lynch and Kyle they first came there on the scene. They kind of cleaned house, and we had a lot of new guys, a lot of new faces, and it was rough to mesh, but I mean. And we didn't win a lot of games initially, but it was always promise. And 2 years later, they end up in the Super Bowl. And obviously that's the goal that everybody wants to reach. But I see the same vision, for the Texans, where it's D'Amico his first job, his first opportunity, and and you gotta go through those humps.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the game on Sunday and looking at like, damn, like Steven Nelson, really nice interception. Jimmy Ward made a play in the backfield, and he's celebrating former 49er. You know, Will Anderson had I think a fumble return for a touchdown that got called back. There were like 3 touchdowns called back in the game, but whatever. But you know, like Nico Collins, man, had a huge game, and then Tank Dell was a rookie, who's making plays. Robert Woods, USC guy, so of course I'm predisposed to thinking he's going to be great, but he's been a solid player for a long time, and he's making plays. You know, the tight ends. I mean, Devin Singletary, I think, threw a touchdown pass yesterday. I mean, there's a lot of pieces out there, you know, and you can really start to see some exciting talent on this team, I think, man.
And that's what you want, you know. I like just seeing the guys mesh, and I like them. You know, when you have a guy like D'Amico, he's a guy you want to play for, a guy you want to play hard for, and man, and they're all young, so it's just cool to see the potential.
Yeah. All right, I got to ask you about your nickname. EMFM or Earl motherfucking Mitchell.
I didn't know we can cuss out here.
Yeah, we can cuss on here. And by the way,
I've been cussing the entire time.
Yeah, well, we still got a few minutes, man.
No,
so you
I'm
can, and by the way, since Earl mentioned that, I totally forgot to say at the top of the show, you can find us on Apollo HOU on YouTube, and we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. So, you know, like, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, you know, whatever, all that stuff I'm supposed to say. But any feedback on the podcast, we definitely love to hear it, especially with having Big Earl on here. But getting back to the nickname EMFM, I remember that being like a nickname for you back in your playing days, and probably before that. Where did that come from?
That started at the University of Arizona, and I was just I was a badass dude, man. I'm gonna just keep it real. I was on special teams. I was blindsiding people. I was knocking people out the games, and that's kind of where you know, that fandom started. And back then we had message boards like Go AZ Cats, Rivals.
Yep.
And someone put a picture of me on there, and it just said EMFM equals W. That's how it started. So it was, and so the guy would talk, and I still don't know who it was to this day, but it was always hilarious, and all the fans loved him, and he would always just be like, if you want to win the motherfucking game, give Earl motherfucking Mitchell the ball, because EMFM equals W. It was cutting promos like just in the message boards, and always just, and it was just a character that somebody started, so everybody always associated that with me, and then they would meet me, and my demeanor didn't really match.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a very, I feel like, soft-spoken guy. You know, you weren't one that was talking a lot.
Yeah.
But I think there's another side on the field, right?
Oh yeah. I think that I had a lot of players that I looked up to in high school that I attributed to. There was this one guy that his name was Courtney Lane. And he was a kid that just he brought the heat. And when we won that state championship game against the Woodlands, he had a huge hit against Danny Amendola. And every time I would see Danny Amendola, he would always come up to me after the game, and be like, "Hey, how's number 7 doing? How's Courtney Lane doing?"
Wow.
And back then I was kind of like, I want to be that at Arizona. I remember how people talked about him in high school. I was like, I want to be talked about like that when I get to college. So
Yeah. Earl motherfucking Mitchell.
Yes, sir.
If that guy or gal who made those voiceovers way back in the day is watching this, feel free to make some voiceovers for this podcast episode, please.
That'd be good. See who that finally was, because it was a mystery.
I love it. I mentioned I'm wearing the Bulls on Parade shirt here. I'm gonna see if I can turn around, Earl.
Let me see.
So you can read some of these names back here on this shirt. Can you see it from here?
Yeah, I see.
All right, who do we got?
Oh man, we got Mr. Alexander, Jason Allen, Connor Barwin. We got
I think Connor made these shirts actually.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure he did. That doesn't surprise me. Tim Bullman, classic. We got QD, Quinn Demps, Kareem Jackson, J. Joe, Shiloh.
Wow.
Daniel
Shiloh
Manning,
K.O.
man. Yeah, man. Shout out to these guys.
It's a 2011 defense, I believe. All right, then we got is Earl Mitchell right after Daniel Manning?
Yeah, we got Daniel Manning, Bryce McCain, Sherry McManus, Jesse Nading, Troy Nolan, Glover Quinn, Brooks Reed, Darryl Sharpton, Tonio Smith, Darrell Smith, J.J. Watt, Mario Williams, Torrey Williams.
Man, that's a hell of a defense back then.
Yeah, man.
Hell of a defense.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those guys, shit. Those are some of the best players the Texans have had. A lot of those guys went on to have a lot of success other places.
Yeah.
I think about Jesse Nading, we mentioned before the show. I'm pretty sure he's like a vice president of analytics or something like that with the Broncos now.
Standard.
Yeah.
That was his word. He would always, if you ask him about anything, standard. How's that Chipotle? Standard. Yeah.
Man, and I see you with the wrestling hat here, big wrestling fan. You were doing something with Booker T a few weeks ago. You came into Trill Burgers.
Yeah. One of my good friends, Top Dollar, goes by Dollar now. He invited me to, shoot one of his Freestyle Fridays that he does so well. And they shot it at Trill Burgers with Booker T, and that was cool. I mean, we go back. Me and AJ, we were teammates with the Dolphins, and we would always go to WrestleMania together. And just to see him, live out his dream and go and actually wrestle, that was cool. And to see him do his thing in character at Trill Burgers with Booker T. He invited me because it was. He knew that would be a cool moment for me. So yeah. Appreciate him, man. Man,
well, Earl motherfucking Mitchell. Appreciate you coming on, man. Now that I started saying it, I can't stop saying it, but it's a catchy nickname. It does. I think pretty sure you gave me a hat.
Yeah, I need to give you one actually.
Okay, you were wearing a hat the other day. I don't think I got one. I was gonna say I should have worn that.
Yeah.
Remiss not to wear that on this show, but really appreciate you coming on to join, man. I think it's I agree with what you're saying. It's a fun time right now to be watching the Texans, and that has not been the case for a while.
Yeah, man. I'm just I'm looking forward to it as a fan. I'm officially just a normal fan watching now, so it's cool.
A normal, slightly larger than most people fan,
on the field.
Yeah, on the field.
Dapping up the players.
Yeah, on the field, dapping up JJ and everybody else. But no, if you see Earl at a game, give him a shout. And just don't get on his bad side. That will be my only recommendation. So
appreciate that.
Yeah. But Earl Mitchell, thank you again for joining us. Check us out on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Remember the Texans, and really honored to be joined by one of my favorite Houston Texans, Earl Mitchell. Earl motherfucking Mitchell.